Joining me now, Trump 2020 campaign senior advisor for strategy, Steve Cortes. Steve, what do you make of that? Biden says if you're better off under Trump, then don't bother voting for him. Also, it kind of says a lot considering this poll was taken during a pandemic. And people still say that they're better off today than they were under the Obama administration. And I totally agree with that.
Sure. No, it's incredible. You know, Stephanie, I was joking here at campaign headquarters that we should pay him because he's kind of part of our campaign staff. He's doing our job for us. He's telling the American people, don't vote for me if you think you're better off, which a clear majority do. For once, I will say I totally concur with Joe Biden. I don't think that's a phrase I've ever uttered on television before. But look, regarding this poll, too, I think it's also important to put this in context. Not only do the majority, you're so right, Stephanie, also, it's pretty incredible given the tumult of this year, given the crisis that our country and the whole world has had to face economically. It's really quite stunning that the majority of the American people still say that they're that much better off than they were 4 years ago. And that speaks to, I believe, the incredible momentum, the incredible economic performance that we had in this country into the China virus. And that's not just my opinion. 2019 was the largest income gain year in all of American history. 6.8% wage growth for the year, just an absolutely blow the doors off performance. So thankfully, we were coming into this crisis in an incredibly strong state. And to put that number in context, Gallup has been doing that poll all the way back to the 1980s. After Ronald Reagan won the presidency largely with that slogan in 1980, they've been polling it since 84. And so every president who's up for re-election has been polled on that number. There was never a president who got north of 50 before. The previous high watermark was President Clinton in 1996. We had a roaring economy in the mid-90s. You were probably just a kid then. I was already working, and he got 50, and that was the previous record. So 56 is an incredible, it's an incredible achievement for the country, for Donald Trump. And I believe this is the primary reason that he is going to be reelected and that we should ignore a lot of those garbage national polls. Most people state that the economy is far and away their number one issue. On the issue of the economy, even in some of those bad national polls, we have a double-digit lead on that topic over Joe Biden. And when you combine all of that with this historic Gallup poll finding on are you better off or not, I really believe that in this very unusual year of 2020, most voters are going to default to the typical calculus that drives their voting decision, which is who's going to make me, which candidate will make me more prosperous and the country more prosperous.
Yeah, and I also saw a poll that people were concerned about Biden's age. And it's not really the age. I mean, President Trump's up there in age as well. But the problem is that he just doesn't seem like he's all there. And we even heard it in that soundbite where he couldn't get the number right, 56%. No. He said 54. And then the other day he said he was like running for Senate. I mean, it's not just gaffes. Like these are major issues. And of course, it's difficult to go out and speak in public, and you're never always going to get it right. We do TV. We don't always get it right. But Biden, he's just constantly messing up.
Right. No, listen, and you're so right. To be fair, and any of us know this, who are in the public eye, if you speak enough on air, you mix things up and you state things incorrectly. But this is in a systemic way. This is a pattern with Joe Biden. I think it's very clear that this is a boxer who no longer belongs in the ring, if I can use a sports metaphor. And you're also right, though, that it's not an age thing. Look, there are plenty of 90-year-olds out there who I think are absolutely, sharp as razors, who are running companies, who are doing amazing things in our society. So it's not the number on his age. It's just the reality of his capacity. By the way, again, not just my opinion. 59% of the American people, according to Rasmussen survey, believe that he would not finish his first term if he's elected president of the United States. Now, we have to continue that line of reasoning. Well, that means a President Kamala Harris. It's one of the reasons that I've really tried to focus a lot on Kamala Harris. And I think she's probably the most consequential vice presidential candidate ever for exactly this reason. The supermajority of the American people believe that if Biden wins, that will de facto result in a President Kamala Harris. And when we look at her policies, she's even more radical than is Joe Biden. She is, according to independent data from GovTrack, which is an independent group that does statistical modeling of legislative records, she was, for the year 2019, the single most liberal member of the entire U.S. Senate, even to the left of Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. So I challenge the American people and ask them to consider what a President Harris, now, President Biden, I believe, is scary enough for this country, but a President Harris is downright frightening.
Yeah, absolutely. She definitely wants to fundamentally transform America. And she said it herself, the Harris-Biden administration. I know it was a gaffe, if you will, but, a lot of people kind of made that prediction anyways. That being said, you were talking about the polling and how we can't trust it. The other day I saw on the Drudge Report that Biden had a 90% chance of winning. And you look at what happened over the weekend where there was like some 20 to 30,000 people who showed up in Florida for the anti-communism rally. President Trump's rallies, I mean, hundreds, thousands of people are showing up despite coronavirus concerns. And then you look at these Biden rallies, like no one shows up. I played a report yesterday from a local news station in Arizona where the reporter was kind of confused because like not one person showed up for this Biden rally. She's like, oh, it's kind of boring out here. I mean, the lack of enthusiasm says a lot. It's like a repeat of 2016.
I saw that same clip. I mean, it really is. It's comical, right? It is. And that's in a swing state. And they weren't in the middle of nowhere. That was in Phoenix, in a swing state, in a major metro area. So the enthusiasm gap is very real. All of us know that. It's statistically, the polling shows it, and also the anecdotal stuff you're talking about. One of the things that I've noticed when I get out on the campaign trail, too often I'm stuck in the swamp. I'm speaking to you from campaign headquarters, which is just outside the nation's capital. But when I'm able to get out on the campaign trail, which I love, as long as you get away from places like New York and Washington, D.C., it's incredible the enthusiasm that you see physically out there for President Trump. And I mean, particularly via flags. I can't tell you how many hundreds, if not thousands, of Trump flags I have seen out there at houses, behind pickup trucks, behind boats. I have yet to find, and I really am trying to look, I have yet to find a single Joe Biden flag. There have to be a couple out there. It's a massive country, but there can't be very many, and I've yet to see one.
It's funny that you bring that up. I've seen a meme where it's like a lake, and it's like no boats are out there. They're like, this is the Biden boat parade. You see these boat parades popping up everywhere in support of President Trump. And I've been traveling a lot, almost every single weekend, and just going to random cities and towns. And I've been seeing like random spontaneous Trump little rallies, or like there's dozens, if not like hundreds of cars with their flags and honking in support of Trump. It's pretty amazing. And I live in La Jolla, California. And the other day I heard all this honking. I was like, oh, must be like, a bunch of Trump's cars with Trump flags. I go look out the window, and it actually was. And this is in California. So the enthusiasm's real. And I've been running around wearing a Trump mask when I go out in public. And you'd think that people would be giving me like thumbs down, but instead people are giving me thumbs up, wondering where I got the mask from. So I think that's also very interesting, especially because, I'm in liberal California over here. Sure. I wanted to ask you about the town hall. So it appears the Trump campaign's going to move forward with this town hall on Thursday. NBC News will be hosting it. I saw something on Twitter today. People are already trying to cancel NBC and MSNBC because they had the audacity to give President Trump a platform. The audacity to give the president a platform.
Right. The sitting president of the United States.
Exactly.
American people. Look, we're excited about the town hall. Now, it's a shame because we are going to Miami as we promised to do, and we should be debating Joe Biden, who should be there in person. There is zero medical reason. There's zero reason, period, why he is not going to be there physically to debate man-to-man Donald Trump. So we are following through on our intention. We are going to the city where we're supposed to be. We're happy to do a town hall, but of course, we prefer a debate. And, I want to speak to this point because I do think it's so important. The Debate Commission is an organization that was little known to most people in this country, but like a lot of swamp institutions, it was completely corrupted. It was really just a slimy cabal of Beltway insiders. It was allegedly bipartisan, but the only Republicans on it were Trump haters. And that's not my opinion. That's based on their own public pronouncements regarding President Trump. And what did they do? They intervened. They put their thumb on the scale, and a full week ahead of time, they changed the entire agreed upon debate format, and they said we're going to do it virtually. Again, with no medical justification at all, with zero consultation with our campaign. They did it unilaterally, and I think they did it for a couple of reasons. Number one, the night prior, last Wednesday night, was the vice presidential debate, and there was just a command virtuoso performance by Vice President Pence. So I believe that the hours later, 7:30 a.m. Eastern time announcement by the commission was very intentional way to step on the message, essentially, and nullify the coverage of Mike Pence and his performance against Kamala Harris. And then I also think they were just very brazenly trying to bail out and protect Joe Biden. They wanted to give him the opportunity to do a Zoom call debate from his basement where he could have gotten all kinds of electronic or staff assistance. And, my message is, look, if he wants to be commander in chief of the greatest republic in history. He needs to put on his big boy pants and get on stage with Donald J. Trump. The American people deserve it.
Yeah, it's rather curious that they wanted to move forward with the virtual debate. I thought it was a good call on the Trump campaign and President Trump to not do a debate virtually. I don't think that would work. And also, he'd been cleared by his doctors. They're trying to use that as an excuse for why there couldn't be a debate. And as you pointed out, like, obviously there's some sort of bias here. The moderators that they're picking out, they would never pick a pro-Trump moderator or a moderator who has put out their nice tweets of President Trump. We saw Fox News' Chris Wallace. We know that he's been a Trump hater for quite some time. Obviously, he wasn't very fair during that debate. He said he was going to be invisible. He wasn't. Actually, you called him out on it on his Fox News Sunday show, which was pretty epic. So a fun clip to watch. We played it on the show a few times.
Okay.
And then Susan Page, I thought she did a little bit of a better job, but obviously she allowed Harris to continue speaking. She cut Mike Pence off so many times. And so it'll be curious to see what happens on Thursday with this debate town hall. Biden will be on ABC, wondering if he'll have any questions in advance. Hopefully not. And what are your expectations for that?
You know, listen, it's with Savannah Guthrie, who I think is reasonably fair. Also, I love town hall setting because Biden is going to be doing the ABC version of it, which we did a few weeks ago. It was George Stephanopoulos, and he certainly is not a journalist. He's completely biased. And they claimed they were going to put moderate voters or undecided voters in the crowd, and they clearly didn't. They picked voters who are antagonistic to the president. But despite those biases, I thought the president did incredibly well. The president connects with regular people in a way that is really just refreshing and very genuine. And I think what you saw in that ABC town hall that the president did was him really speaking powerfully with heart and knowledge and compassion and with a record to regular Americans. So it's a whole different setting. So I think the president we're going to see on Thursday night is very different from the president we saw facing off against Chris Wallace and against Joe Biden. And I choose my words carefully there. He was facing off against both of them because they were both his opponents, unfortunately, in Cleveland. So my hope is that the moderator won't even matter all that much. It's going to be more of a conversation of President Trump with the American people. And of course, he would never speak to the American people in the kind of confrontational way that he will speak to Joe Biden or to Chris Wallace or others. So look, we think we needed a debate. We're going to have one last chance at a debate a week later. It's a shame we're not having one. We're in Miami as we promised we would be, but we're going to make the best of it and hopefully speak to a huge television audience.
Steve, really quickly, I wanted to get your reaction to day 3 of the Amy Coney Barrett hearings. What your thoughts on the questions and answers we've heard so far?
Well, my thoughts on the questions is, holy cow, this is like one really extended commercial for term limits. I mean, some of these senators, wow. I mean, they literally, have been, for instance, Senator Leahy, who was speaking today and really just bumbling today. He was elected in 1974. I mean, think about that. Joe Biden was elected to the Senate in 1972. Yikes. That's a year I was born, and I am not a young man. Okay, I have adult children, and he was elected when I was in diapers. I was a toddler when Senator Leahy was elected. So it's a commercial for term limits, but more importantly, from our point of view, Amy Coney Barrett, I'm just amazed by her intellect, amazed by her winning personality. This woman is a role model for young women all over this country. I would hope, for instance, that my daughters look up to her and want to emulate her and be like her in every sense, both on the personal side, the family and faith side, as well as professionally. So she's going to be confirmed. Unfortunately, it'll be on party lines. That's a shame. But regardless, she's going to become a justice, and she's going to be a real credit to the high court.
Yeah. I'm kind of wondering, did the Democrats really think their lining of questioning is going to actually help them? I've been listening to these questions. I mean, maybe their interns are writing them, but it's actually just embarrassing them. Obviously, they had nowhere to go. There's no reason to not confirm Barrett. But the Democrats, they just keep coming up with random crazy questions, weird hypotheticals. And this one from the second day really disturbed me, and I wanted to play it for our audience, and then I'll let you react to it. Roll tape.
Became a legal adult, have you ever made unwanted requests for sexual favors or committed any verbal or physical harassment or assault of a sexual nature?
No, Senator Hirono.
So is this where Christine Blasey Ford comes in? Like,
wasn't that just embarrassing? And by the way, that was asked in front of her children. I mean, just what an awkward and uncomfortable and unnecessary scene. If she had any reason to believe that there's something in her past, she clearly could have asked her about that first privately. Look, this is just grandstanding at its absolute worst. And by the way, speaking of Senator Hirono, who asked that question, I'd like to point out that both she and Kamala Harris, and this is very relevant to this election because, of course, again, we could be potentially looking at a President Harris if Joe Biden wins on November 3rd, God forbid. Both of them in previous judicial judiciary confirmation hearings have exhibited real bigotry against people of faith, against Christians specifically, and Catholics even more particular. And it came from Dianne Feinstein of that committee as well, against Amy Coney Barrett herself when she said the quote, "dogma lives loudly within you." I was so happy when Mike Pence said, "You're darn right it does." That's a compliment to a believing Christian. But the point is, there shouldn't be any kind of religious litmus test. It's explicitly prohibited by our Constitution, for one thing, but it's also just ethically and morally wrong. And yet, those senators, Senator Hirono and Senator Kamala Harris in particular, have really harassed previous nominees over their faith. In the case of Kamala Harris, she specifically harshly questioned Brian Busher. He is now a federal judge. Thankfully, he was confirmed, but she harshly questioned him because he's a member of the Knights of Columbus. Now, if for viewers out there who might not know the Knights of Columbus, it's the largest fraternal church organization in America. They do unbelievably terrific social service work out there in the community, and it's for Catholic men to encourage them to be men of faith and to be better fathers and husbands. There is nothing controversial, at least there should be nothing controversial about the Knights of Columbus, and yet that was an attack line from Kamala Harris. That's what she thinks of people of faith in this country. That's how willing she is to ignore the Constitution, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, media's treated her very unfairly. I saw it was a report from CNN. They're like, she's going to portray herself as a mother and a wife. It's like, well, no, she actually is a mother and a wife. So we've seen a lot of crazy things. The attacks on her faith, absolutely disgusting. Well, Steve, we're going to have to leave it here. Thank you.
Hey, thank you so much.